1, 2, 1, 2. Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. That's Ted Coley. Hey, Ted Coley.
How you doing?
How you doing today?
Awesome, as always.
Awesome as always. What is Beacon of Speech? Beacon of Speech is selling freedom of speech to everybody. See, I got my script back. Ted found my script. I didn't even
It was
announce
hiding in plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight.
I think it was there the whole time.
Yeah, well, I've been very lackadaisical.
But that's not what you were asking me to look for.
No,
was it?
I was looking for
I kind of looked for what, and I don't think I saw what.
I'm still going to look for that. We made sports predictions, and I lost them. I don't think they exist. I think they got thrown away because they were left out on the table. See what happens at Beacon of Speech to cleaning people coming and they clean out our stuff. Free speech is under constant assault in America today. The problem is it's coming from two places it's very hard to fight. From the left in the form of PC madness, from the right from the form of corporations. The concept that we're all in this together is lost in America. America is supposed to lead by example, not force its will onto other countries. What are limits to free speech? Pure evil. We're going to throw this off to the side.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've done that.
Yeah, it's been a while, and that's 1 minute of show that we just wasted, that we'll never get back, that you had to hear over and over. So, this is what I want to talk about. All the time, we always bash on corporations, and when I say we, I mean me, right? So, we're going to do two things in defense of corporations today. Number one, Ted did something that was very funny to me. Right by the computer, we worked at Iron Mountain together, right? And Iron Mountain would always give us little trinkets, like the iron... I'll be right back. They give us little trinkets like the Iron Mountain football, or the Iron Mountain ice cream scoop, or the Iron Mountain mug. Okay?
There's like a lot you can do with that.
Yeah, okay.
You could have like a real game with this.
Yeah, you want?
I'm being facetious.
We can leave this. I have an Iron Mountain little Hot Wheels car. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. Okay? But before we worked at Iron Mountain, we worked together at Arcus. And Arcus, what year was that? Arcus would have been what till 2000? You worked at Data Guard and then about 90.
Well, I think that Iron Mountain bought Arcus in like '97, but it took like several years for it to,
Well, we're gonna do a
transition
free
to be
plug
complete.
for Arcus. Do you have any issues with Arcus looking back?
No, not
Mostly
really.
positive.
Yeah, mostly.
If you were looking for good data storage, go to Arcus right here. And see, Ted even has an 800 number. 1-800-GO-ARCUS for your data storage needs.
So everybody call that number.
Everybody call 1-800-GO-ARCUS. And you'll get a great deal. Say Fred and Ted sent you. But that brings up one of the lead stories on CNN today. There's a, you know how Donald Trump says we're going to bring jobs back to America.
Uh-huh.
American manufacturing jobs. Well, I guess CNN sent a reporter out to Hubbard, Ohio. Do you know where Hubbard is?
It sounds familiar.
I think it's by Youngstown. Is
Okay,
that correct?
that sounds.
Well, all I know is
sounds
it's in
possible.
Ohio. And they actually have manufacturing jobs in Hubbard, right? And they're trying to hire people, say, come work for our company. Now, I did not write down what company it was. I just wrote down that it was a CNN story, right? What is the catch with the manufacturing jobs coming back to America? And you'll get a kick out of this. What is the catch? Why is there a catch to manufacturing jobs coming back to Ohio? Now, the Jeopardy theme would be sounding, we are going to defend corporations.
What is the catch?
Right. The key phrase here is Hubbard, I believe, is around Youngstown. What do you think of when you think of Youngstown? Do you think of Disneyland or do you think of urban blight?
Oh yeah, it's like really. There's like nothing there.
It's
So,
crappy.
yeah.
Crappy as hell. You would think that people would be lined up at the door of this corporation to work for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, according to CNN, 40% of workers that come through their door to come work for them are on drugs.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
And they have a no drug policy because, you're dealing with presses, you're dealing with manufacturing, you're dealing with heavy equipment, not plows, forklifts, things like that. They, for some reason, this manufacturing company doesn't want their employees to be whacked out on drugs. Now, I don't even think they test for marijuana. If I remember right, and again, I should have wrote it down, they test for like opioids and cocaine.
So they kind of have to like grade on a curve.
They grade on a curve. They don't even test for all drugs. And they said that 40%...
They'll take the least stoned person.
The least... They said that 40% of workers who walk through that door fail the drug test. And they can't even staff enough because they give drug tests not every day, not every week, but, once a year or probable cause. Say you take the forklift and you drive it off the dock and into the canal. They're like, holy cow, are you an idiot or are you on drugs? And then they take the test and you're on drugs, you're fired. Right? They cannot keep a workforce, a non-drug... Now, when I worked at Taco Bell, right before I left, they said, one of the managers said, well, I think we should have a drug-free Taco Bell. And all the employees should be drug tested. And I said, you are insane. If you start drug testing employees for $8 an hour, we're not going to be able to have anybody in here. Right? You were going to say something. Go ahead.
I actually, maybe, I want to run this by you. I made a prediction. I said that I think what's going to end up happening with this opioid crisis,
right?
I think there's going to be a class action lawsuit against the drug makers, like the tobacco lawsuit. I don't know if those are
already starting to percolate.
Yeah. Now, was that government driven?
I don't think it was government driven. I think what had happened, and again, I used to say it all the time, and you agree, if it's a good deal, people all flock to it, right? And I think what happened is a few people died of cancer because of smoking-related problems. And then those people sued J.R. Reynolds. Is that the name of the company?
R.J.
Reynolds.
Yes.
R.J. Reynolds. Sound Smoke. So they sue R.J. Reynolds, and then a court would say the family lost, mom or dad or grandpa or grandma, you get $20 million. Well, once that happened 5, 6, 7, 8 times, somebody in local government said, hey, we could sue we could sue J.R. Reynolds on behalf of people in government. You see what I'm saying? The private lawsuits came first, and then the government lawsuits came second.
Okay.
So what's happening now, because you're making a good analogy, is some states are starting to sue drug companies because they're like, there's an opioid crisis in our state, and you make this drug. You see what I'm saying?
Right, and the states are suing because it's driving up their costs because they have to treat these people mainly with Medicaid and...
Right.
So they're trying to recover their costs.
Exactly. They're not doing it out of, we got all these people dying in the streets. They're like you said, our bottom line says we are losing X. We have to make up, all the Narcan that we buy, we are going to push this onto the consumer.
Yeah, I really think that's going to it's going to start.
That is in its infancy, and I think you are Ted called it. I think you're 100% right. I think in the next 10 years, they're going to be going... I don't even know in 10 years if they'll be able to make those kind of drugs anymore, even if it helps people with terminal cancer, or, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in hospice and you're dying of terminal liver cancer, you don't care how addictive it is. You don't want to be in pain the last 2 months of your life. Well, there's going to come a time where people are like, well, we can't make that medicine for you.
Yeah.
But again, there's benefits for everything, right? And there are benefits for opioids. The problem is they don't want people in the hospital. They pass them out like candy. And they said, well, we don't want you in the hospital. Saves costs just to hand you these drugs.
Another thing, did you hear this week that they're talking about, what would it be, the FDA is talking about reducing the amount of nicotine in cigarettes?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
And initially I was thinking, that's probably a good idea. And then I was thinking, you know what? People are just going to smoke more then.
Right. Yeah. So there's people smoking, and again, this is how I have felt since I was a kid. I never smoked. Okay, I'm not just saying it for her hyperbole or anything. If I did, I think I'm old. I'm almost 50. I don't think I'm not going to get in trouble. Mom and Dad are not going to ground me. So I could admit it if I did, but I don't. Right? But I always stuck up for smoking because this is what happens. Even when I was a teenager, I knew as soon as they got rid of smoking, what was the next thing they were coming for? Cheeseburgers.
Mm-hmm.
Or milkshakes. Or at the time they didn't have Jolt Cola. But now they have these energy drinks that are like chock full of caffeine more than pop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they come for next. Everybody is supposed to live this perfect lifestyle, but we don't live in a country where we have a nanny state. And again, when I say I'm a libertarian, I'm a light libertarian. I don't think you should be able to do heroin. Okay? But you should be able to drink a pop. You should, if you want to smoke a cigarette, you should be able to smoke a cigarette. If they cause cancer all the time, that's fine.
Now,
then
when you say
illegal.
You shouldn't be able to do heroin, and what's your reasoning? Because it does end up affecting other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because how many people, and you're about 50, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many people have been smoking pot since they're a teenager and they're still around, they have jobs, they do this? Okay? How many people do you know who've been doing heroin and still have normal jobs since you were a teenager? You know what I'm saying? All those people are dead. Now you say, well, if somebody wants to do heroin until they're dead, well, now you're talking about spreading, diseases with needles when you're...
Right, because it doesn't just affect them.
Right. So there are certain things... Now, a hardcore libertarian would be smacking me in the back of the head. Oh, you're as bad as the government. Well, no, there's got to be certain restrictions. There's got to be certain common sense. And they're like, well, what's common sense? Oh, and then you're going down that alley.
But yeah, and I guess, like, when I say it doesn't just affect them, I mean, like, a heroin addict probably won't be able to hold a job, so they're going to end up, breaking into houses to get money to,
Yeah, breaking into houses to get money.
Yeah, I wonder where he came up with that.
Yeah, and so, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, but back to the corporations. So in defense of corporations, they want to hire people. Some do. I know. But they want to hire people, and they're like, we want to give you a drug test. Okay? And I write something down before I forget.
I just want to clarify something.
Okay.
Somebody broke into my house about 5 years ago.
Well, I didn't know if you want to talk about it, so I didn't say it.
Well, no, I just wanted... We didn't break into somebody's house.
Yeah, somebody broke into... We did not break into anybody's house. But anyhow, if a corporation says, we want to drug test you, that should be their right. Okay? Because a well-paying job... Again, you're using their equipment. I understand that. Okay? But at some point, you have to say, my life is none of your business. Right? I just read, again, on CNN earlier this week, that one tech company wants to be involved in their workers' lives. They only want the best workers there are. So they're going to pay 6 figures. What's the catch?
What's the catch?
What's the catch? 6 figures, tech company.
I don't know. I assume
they want to do what they do to dogs. They want to implant a
small chip
I heard
in your hand.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Ted, 6 figures. Are you willing to put a chip in your hand at Iron Mountain?
No.
No, me neither. And I'm not there anymore. But there's...
You know what'll end up happening, though? About 5-10 years from now, I'll end up doing it
because you have no choice.
For 5 figures. low 5 figures.
Low 5 figures. Well, but that's the point. Where is the line? Hard libertarians should be like, well, you can't test people at all. Well, again, if you're making tacos, again, back to the Taco Bell analogy, okay, what equipment are you going to break? Okay, you made a taco badly. Okay, well, if you keep making tacos badly, you're going to get fired. Okay? Same principle. In defense of the corporations, they don't want to have a bunch of drug addicts. They want people shooting heroin in their bathrooms. Okay, which is, I would say, that's a legitimate complaint of companies. Ted's thinking of people shooting heroin up.
Yes.
But no, so when I read that article, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. And if Trump wants to bring back all these jobs, we need to get a grasp on drugs in America. And like I said, I assume that 40% is a really high number, but I'm not really surprised by it.
Yeah, that is pretty high. No pun intended.
But again, we're
So
talking
that's
about
what they said. 40% of the people couldn't pass.
40%. 40% of the people who walked in their door, filled out an application, said, "We want to work at your company," and they said, "We want to hire you. We need the workers." They give them the blood test. They fail.
And these are illegal drugs that they're
Illegal
failing?
drugs. Yes.
Wow.
But again, we're not talking about Chicago, LA. We're talking about
And you said it's not marijuana; it's other drugs.
other drugs. But it's in Youngstown, and it's almost ground zero of the opioid crisis. We talked about it before. West Virginia, Southern Ohio. That's like the atom bomb went off, and that's where it's everywhere now, but that's where it's concentrated, and that's where the police are posting pictures of people just passed out in their cars and stuff. It's Southern Ohio, West Virginia. Southern Ohio, West Virginia. Do you want to talk about the opioid crisis for an hour and a half?
No.
Yeah, I don't want to either. That's why I grabbed the
But it is interesting.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, it's hard for me to defend corporations. You know what I mean? Like, oh, corporations screwed all those people and fired them. Well, they should have been doing heroin. There's good jobs to be had. Again, I'm sure it's hard work. It's a manufacturing plant, so it's not, assembling tacos. So, now, we are Beacon of Speech. We have a blog. Do you know that? We have a blog?
A blog?
Yes, we have a blog. And I wrote a story for the blog posted at noon today. And I'm going to ask Ted, because I often ask Ted questions, and there are no right answers. This has a right or wrong answer. And you're going to be in big trouble if you answer it wrong.
Oh, boy.
Do you know who Bud Selig is?
Yeah, he's the baseball commissioner, isn't he?
He is 100% the baseball commissioner. He's commissioner from 1992 until 2014. Now, today, why did Beacon of Speech write a story about Bud Selig?
Is this something that I have to get right, too?
No, you don't have to get this right.
Why did, I don't know.
Bud Selig is going in the Baseball Hall of Fame today. So he's going in with, let's see if I can remember, Jeff Bagwell, Tim Raines. When I was a kid, I loved Tim Raines. I thought Tim Raines was awesome. And Pudge Rodriguez. And
good catch.
Yeah, Pudge was good. And Bud Selig. Okay? Now, here's the question that's going to separate Beacon of Speech. Are you ready? Does Bud Selig belong in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I'll say no.
Excellent! All right, good answer. 3,000 words. It was the longest article I wrote for Beacon of Speech ever. And it was Bud Selig in the Hall of Fame is an abomination. It is a scourge against baseball. Now, that was the only part you had to get right. The other parts you may or may not remember. In 1992, Bud Selig became commissioner. And I'm good because it's our article. It's on our website. I wrote it, right? I am paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but I feel like I've been researching it for a week, right? The longest thing I've written. He became commissioner in 1992. In 1994, the players struck.
I remember.
And the Cleveland Indians would have gone into the playoffs in 1994, but the World Series was canceled because of Bud Selig. Strike one. Do you remember the home run chase?
The home run chase.
Yeah, Sosa, McGuire,
and
Barry Bonds.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
Did those guys look like baseball players, or did they look like professional wrestlers?
Oh, they were. Yeah, they were pretty bulked up.
They were juiced out of their gourds. Okay. Now, Ted is next to me. I weigh about 200 pounds. I'm 6 foot tall. Ted, you're about, you don't have to tell your weight, but you're about 5'6".
5'6", yeah.
And you weigh a lot less than me. I guess around 150, but you don't have to say.
Yeah.
Okay? So, if me and you were in... Now, Bud Selig, he owned the Brewers from 1970 until he became commissioner in 1992. Okay? The steroid era, where basically everybody was doing it, was after the strike. Okay? Somehow, even though Bud Selig was in the clubhouses, he would talk to players like me and you are right here. We could watch baseball games and see how big they were. Okay? Bud Selig saw these giant behemoths, right, in person. And he's like, oh, they hit a lot of home runs. They must have ate a lot of Wheaties. These must be good corn-fed Midwestern gentlemen, right? Which is a pile of BS because I remember there was a sports writer in Chicago, and he used to dog Sammy Sosa that says, hey, if you're not doing drugs, pee in this cup. Right? And Sammy Sosa would be like, oh, no, me no speak the English. And I think Manny Ramirez did that too. They had a press conference, and he's English, and they're like, Manny Ramirez, you lived in New York your whole life. Well, New York?
Well, the funny thing is, though, is that, and maybe I'm mistaken, but during that time period, people were watching baseball.
Yes, and that's exactly right. And that's the point of my story. Bud Selig, when it was in his interest to cancel the World Series, he did it. He screwed the game up. And then, when all these people were doing steroids, but it was resulting in higher attendance, higher TV figures, more interest, he's like, well, steroids? I thought they were taking that stuff from GNC. He went to Vitamin World, and he took some...
Vitamix.
He went to Vitamin World, he was taking B12. That's what I thought. You don't get to ban all those people who are on steroids because you sat on your hands. Baseball grew despite Bud Selig, and like I said, it is a long-ass article. I think I cited like 20 different sources. I felt like I was back in grad school again. And I'm like, everybody likes Bud Selig, right? Bud Selig is going in the Hall of Fame. The home run leader in the history of baseball, you know who that is, it's Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
Right? Is Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame?
No.
He's not in the Hall of Fame because he cheated. Right? Well, how was he able to cheat? Bud Selig stood next to him and said, okay, well, go hit that ball. People who defend Bud Selig say, well, the union wouldn't go for it, right? When you're the commissioner, you're supposed to be able to do what's in the best interest of baseball.
Now, do you think, now, it's common knowledge that Bonds was
Yes,
doing it,
because
right?
he was linked to Balco after the fact.
Now, do you think somebody like Ken Griffey Jr. was doing?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But if you would have asked me, do you think Manny Ramirez did it? I would have said no. Because everybody said Manny Ramirez was a hitting savant.
Yeah.
And he didn't test positive for steroids, if you remember. Manny Ramirez tested positive for a female hormone that disguised steroids. And they said, well, you're suspended. He's like, I did not do steroids. I no speak English. Right? But, again, he's a professional baseball player baseball players are so chock full of testosterone, they're banging everything that moves. Right? Except for Manny. Somehow he got female hormones in his system. He's like, oh, no steroidos. And so that's what makes me so mad. Even after they linked all this, you know...
What about Albert Bell?
That I don't know. Let me tell you, okay? Everybody in the article, I believe that I cited at one time or another either admitted it or tested for it. I didn't speculate on anybody. The only person I will go on record as saying I think they did steroids and it's never been proven, right, is Tiger Woods. I honestly think part of Tiger Woods' problem, if you look at him in high school and then you right up until, you know, when he got clobbered by his wife, right, he grew like a baseball player. And then all of a sudden he has hip problems, back problems, knee problems. He has the same problems that all the steroid users were having. And they're like, well, you know what? Tiger, his swing retched up his back. Oh, Tom Watson didn't retch up his swing. Or they're like, oh, well, Tom Watson. You don't see, who's the big guy with the checkered pants who likes to party? Daly.
Oh.
You don't see John Daly going around, like Tiger Woods, who's
yeah. If anybody should have health problems, it's that guy.
Yeah. Somehow John Daly is in better shape
He's
than
as
Tiger
healthy
Woods.
as a horse.
Yeah, he's healthy as a horse. So again, I'm not going to go on record for anything else except for Tiger Woods. Now, Tiger Woods is being like, well, I'm not playing. I'm going to sue your ass, and we'll see you in court making a speech. So, but back to baseball, all these cheaters, again, if you could do steroids and you couldn't tell, I know what Ted looks like, and I know, let's say that Ted had, you started to work out. And a year later,
let's say I started doing steroids so I could do my route faster.
Your work is going to make you do steroids so you can lift more boxes. But that's my whole point. You cannot, in good conscience, say that Bud Selig was blind about this. And you can't say he couldn't do anything about it. He was the commissioner. Oh boy, I wish there was something I could have done about it. I wish I was commissioner. You were the commissioner! And that's what made me so mad. So they leave the cheaters out. And another thing, I'm going to go back. Who's the all-time hits leader in baseball?
All-time hits leader in baseball.
Yes, you know this.
Is it Pete Rose?
Pete Rose! Now, Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because he was a great manager and he was one of the best hitters in the history of the game. No, he's not in the Hall of Fame because he gambled on baseball. Why is he not in the Hall of Fame? Because he tarnished the integrity of the game. Well, what do you do when you let steroid monkeys take over and bash? They pretend like it's softball practice. Okay? I don't blame I blame Mark McCoy and Sammy Sosa. Okay? But they did it for the money. All those guys, with the exception of like Lance Armstrong, those guys didn't have to give back their money. You're caught on steroids. You're like, oh, my bad. Well, you didn't take the $100 million out of my bank account, did you? It's the same thing. Well, you don't get in the Hall of Fame. Well, guess what, Bud Selig? Bud Selig, his last year in office, was making $25 million a year. Okay? Your reward was money, just like Barry Bonds' reward was money. You don't get to get in the Hall of Fame just like Barry Bonds or Pete Rose because you besmirched the integrity of the game. Well, Bud Selig, he's a nice guy. He's 80, and, he doesn't have... Too bad. If you let him in, you have to let all the cheaters in, including Shoeless Joe and Pete Rose. He sat on the Pete Rose case for 25 years. Basically, they're not going to reinstate Pete Rose till after he's dead. Okay? And when I was researching the article also said Pete Rose... the reason he's not in the Hall of Fame is because he keeps shooting himself in the foot. Like, he's a chronic liar.
He's a chronological liar.
Yeah, he's chronologically lying. And that's the whole thing. It's like, part of the reason is because he is dishonest. Well, Bud Selig was like, oh, well, in my folksy mannerisms, I tried to do what was best for the game, but sometimes it didn't work out. But if you do the math, when he was commissioner, he made, he probably made $150 million as commissioner. Not in a year, but from the time the day he started... I think they said his first salary was $600,000, and then when he left, it was $25 million a year. And that's why I'm like, you got rewarded. You don't get in the Hall of Fame too. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that was the whole point of my story. I'm not saying, raid his house, right, or do an investigation. I'm just saying he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. See, Ted's laughing at me because I'm all upset about baseball. Well, when I was a kid, I loved baseball. And
do you pay attention to baseball now?
Hardly. And again,
but did you pay attention to it like in the 90s when
I'm going to tell you the
95 to like 2000? That would be like the heyday of the home run hitters, the home run hitters. Were you paying attention back then?
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you a story. When I was a kid, I loved the Indians. Loved the Indians more than anything, right? When I was a young man, I loved hockey, I loved baseball, I loved football, right? I didn't like basketball, okay? I just didn't. In 1994, the Cleveland Indians had not won a World Series in 40 years. 94 was their year. They were going to the playoffs. I was so excited. And then they did the strike. And I said, screw baseball, right? And then in 1995, they came back and they had the World Series. When the World Series was on, I moved away to graduate school. And I followed from afar. And I liked the Indians. But I learned that I didn't love the Indians anymore. I loved the Detroit Red Wings. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I did not love the Browns anymore because in 95 was the year that they moved. So I loved the Minnesota Vikings in 95, and I loved the Detroit Red Wings, and I liked the Indians because I was still mad that they went on strike. I went to a couple of Twins games like in 96, but I never loved the Twins because they played in that Metrodome. It was like playing in a big garbage bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I still like the Indians. I still follow the Indians, but I don't love them like when I was a kid. And I've told this story on Beacon of Speech before. I remember when I was a kid, I think it was 1981. I remember laying on my parents' bed. They weren't home. I remember listening to Indians games because that's where the radio was. Listening on radio. I remember there was an earthquake, and they were talking about earthquake shook Municipal Stadium. And they said that thing was so big.
In 81?
I think it was 81. It could have been 82. It could have been 79. I would have been in my early teens. But I remember listening to games. I remember going out of my way, listening on a transistor radio, listening...
The Herb Score. That's probably what was on there, right?
So, but that's why it makes me mad now, because Bud Selig helped kill my love of the game. And again, you made your money, good. This is America. Make all the money you want. You know, put in your bank account. Just don't make all the money and screw everybody you can and say, oh, I was the greatest guy there ever was. All the problems with baseball, I had nothing to do with. And everything that worked, well, because I was able to push it through, and that's why they compensated me for that.
Now, do you know our attendance is attendance pretty good in baseball now, or?
The graph that I used as my reference, it said that attendance was going up, 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 up. You hit 94 and it hit a peak, right? And then after the strike, it went down 10%, right? And then after that, it went up, 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 up. And about 5 years ago, we're back to 1994 levels. And they said, well, it's kind of a misnomer because back in the early 90s, right? Municipal Stadium, the capacity was 70,000, right? Well, they never sold it out except for on opening day. Now, capacity at Jacobs Field is, 38,000. Mm-hmm. And then just last year, they shrunk the capacity down to 35,000. They took out seats, right? So a lot of ballparks, I think the Astrodome in Houston used to seat 60,000. Now they got a new stadium in Houston. I think it seats 40,000. So they said that right now is plateaued at 1994 levels, but the capacity percentages are way up because they're out of the old dinosaur stadiums that seated 70,000, and they're at 90% capacity of these places that seat 40, 42, 45,000. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And very few stadiums are getting bigger. You know, like Fenway, I think they keep adding seats on the outfield. I think Cubs, they're adding a few seats here and there. But most of the stadiums, they're not doing bigger, bigger, bigger. They want to make the baseball game an event.
Right.
Does that answer your question or no?
Somewhat.
So, I wanted to talk about a few other things. We already talked about Arcus. We talked about Bud Selig. You could read more about that on the Beacon of Speech blog. Airplay and charts. When I was on vacation, I wanted to show you this. Ted, me and you have discussed, we are way out of contact when it comes to modern music.
Mm-hmm.
You more than me, but I'm still out of contact, right? I just read an article this week, and it said Drake is the transcendent figure of modern music. Do you know who Drake is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I do not think I have ever if I've heard a song where Drake is singing on it, I
know
name
who he
it
is, but I don't really know any of his songs.
I don't know any of Drake's songs either. But they said it's almost impossible to escape Drake if you're a music fan. Well, I'm a music fan, and I escape Drake all the time.
The Drake.
The Drake, yes. So, I was looking at the USA Today, and I thought this was intriguing. This is the USA Today airplay charts, and we're gonna poke some fun at Ted, okay? But we're also gonna poke some fun at me, okay? Now, let me flip this over and make sure that I do this the correct way. Now, they say spins, but when they say spins, they say across the United States, this is how many times the song has been played during the week, okay? So, we'll use the country charts. The number one song on the country charts, and we're only going to skim through this, is Thomas Rhett with Maren Morris. The song is Craving You, and it was played 26,000 times last week.
Now,
Okay.
who's that girl?
I have no idea. I have no idea who that is. I have no idea who any of these people are. Oh, I take that back. I know some of them. Number 2 is Dylan Scott. I don't know who that is. Number 3 is Blake Shelton. You know who that is. Number 3 is Rascal Flatts. They suck. Number 9 is Lady Antebellum. They suck. Florida Georgia Line. They suck. Number 12 is Old Dominion. Don't know who that is. Zach Brown Band. They suck. Okay, so on the country charts, the top 20, everybody either sucks or I don't know who they are.
That's the country charts.
The reason I bring that up is what songs have been played most in the United States this week. They're all country songs. Nobody is playing any, like down here on adult rock, got played 600 times. Country songs are getting played 26,000 times. So literally country music, if you go by the numbers, is what? Around at the 500 to 26 is, what, 10,000 times more popular than rock and roll right now? Or adult rock? It's like, that's horrible. And so when people say they love Drake, I'm like, well, there's a lot of country fans who don't know who Drake is.
Mm-hmm.
But top 40, again, country is what the most amount of people are listening to. Next is top 40. And if you look at the bands, they're all a bunch of people I have not heard of. Or I think they suck. I don't know who number 1 is. Don't know who 2 is. I know who 4 is. They suck. Shawn Mendes sucks. Bruno Mars. Okay, I actually like him. You like Bruno Mars?
Yeah.
Okay, one person. Bruno Mars got played 11,000 times this week. Ed Sheeran sucks. Selena Gomez sucks. Okay. Oh, Justin Bieber, number 15. So I either don't know who any of them are, or they suck.
Do you like Justin Bieber?
No, I do not. He can't. Oh, I gotta tell you a funny story. Justin Bieber was on tour, and he's been touring for the last 2 years, and he said he's exhausted. So he pulled out at the end of his tour. Did you hear about this?
No.
This is a true story. I can't make this stuff up. Justin Bieber canceled his tour, and then he said he needed to find God. He needed to get himself right with God. Right? And everybody's like, oh, Justin Bieber, you're full of crap. Okay? You're just a scumbag. And he's like, no, I'm not a scumbag. I'm Justin Bieber. I'm a great guy. As a matter of fact, I'm going to church on Thursday at 7 o'clock at, our Lord and Savior church. And then he gave the address. He told what time he was going to church, which, you never do. But, oh, no, I'm going to church. So he told the press where he was going to be, what church it was, everything. They didn't have to hunt him down. As he's leaving the church, guess what happened?
He got mobbed?
He got mobbed, and he ran over a photographer.
What, with his car?
Yeah. And the police said, well, it was an accident. Well, how did the paparazzi know you were at the church? Because you lied and said, I need to get right with God. That's why I canceled my tour. This is the church I'm going to be at. If you want to go to church, there's lots of churches you can go to, and the paparazzi's not going to. Would you say that's fair?
Mm-hmm.
That's why Justin Bieber's a scumbag. Okay. So most popular chart is country charts. Second most popular chart is the top 40 charts. Okay, now we're going to just go by charts. We're not going to go by each one. Okay? The third most popular chart in America is Hot Adult Contemporary, which is basically top 40 for adults. Ed Sheeran, Selena Gomez, Coldplay, Bruno Mars, Shawn Mendes. Okay? That's third. Now, are you listening to any of those people? Do you own any Selena Gomez albums in your house? No. Okay, so we're still doing really bad. Fourth most popular music in America, adult contemporary, Adele. Oh my, Train, Rihanna. Okay, they all suck. Dun, 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 dun.
You don't like Train?
No, no. Fred hates Train. Let's go on the record. Fred hates Train. So we're going by most popular. 1, 2, 3, 4. Adult contemporary, Childish Gambino. I actually like Childish Gambino. Number 2, Bruno Mars. Number 7, Bruno Mars. You like Bruno Mars. And a bunch of people we never heard of. Okay? So, are you starting to worry that you might not know anything on any of these charts?
I'm not starting to worry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 charts down is alternative music. Okay? Now, there might be some bands you've actually heard of. Okay? Are you familiar with Weezer?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And you're familiar with the Foo Fighters.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then some bands that are alright, and some bands are overrated. Muse is okay, and Portugal the Man I try to listen to. They're not my cup of tea. But so, they're okay, but they're only getting about 2,000 spins. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 charts down is active rock. Okay? Have you ever heard of Green Day?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of Metallica?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of Foo Fighters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's a few other bands, if I explain, like Stone Sour, you don't know who they are, but it's the guy from Slipknot. You know Slipknot.
Heard
Yeah.
of them.
So now we're getting into things that you've heard of. Now, we keep going all the way down, okay, to adult rock. All right? And adult rock is probably what I listen, either active rock or adult rock, okay? Number 2 is Arcade Fire. My wife took me to Arcade Fire concert. They're good. Dan Auerbach, he's the guy from Black Keys. You like Black Keys?
I don't really know that much about him.
600 listens for the whole week. Okay? That means we are basically out of touch. Okay? Now, you're more out of touch than me, but I'm mostly out of touch too. In America is country music and Drake. And when I say Drake, I mean all that top 40 crap. Real rock bands, real rock stars, they're basically gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it's like boxing. Who's boxing right now? They said that, what was his name? There was a guy, and they said he was 55 years old, right? And he was boxing because he couldn't do anything else. Okay? Pacquiao. He's not 55, but Pacquiao says he's going to keep fighting. One of the fights of the century is going to be Mayweather versus the UFC guy, right? Now, do you know any young boxers? I cannot name one boxer younger than Manny Pacquiao. Not one. And that shows where rock and roll is. Now, you've heard of Metallica, but their best days was about 1980... What year was Ride the Lightning? 83? 84? Now, they're still making music, and they're not embarrassing themselves that much. Okay? But it goes back to things that die, and, even though I love the Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl's got to be in his 40s. He was in Nirvana.
Yeah, I think he's about 48, maybe.
Yeah, so
I think he's your age.
Oh, that's old. The point of my story is...
He's from Warren, isn't he?
Oh, jeez. At one time, I know he was in D.C. He probably was from Warren. I thought Marilyn Manson was from Warren.
He's from Canton.
Canton. That's right. The point of my story is rock and roll is slowly dying, And I always say if you look for rock and roll, you can find it. Well, you really have to find it because nobody's playing it on the radio. You have to find it on YouTube. You have to find it on websites. I was listening to a new rock band, and it was called Ghastly Sounds. And they were a little, if you would listen to them, you wouldn't like them. They're a little too hard. They're a little more hardcore death metal-ish. Okay? But I remember how few people had watched their things on YouTube. And they're definitely not getting played on the radio. And if radio wants, you know, how many classic rock stations are in Cleveland?
Classic rock?
Yeah.
At least
98, 98.5, 97.5, 106.5 plays a mix of yesterday and today. If you don't play new rock, you're not feeding the machine. You're not keeping the genre alive. Which goes back to baseball, okay? And this is part of the reason I wanted to bring this up, okay? Baseball. Do you know anybody younger than you who loves baseball?
Younger than me.
Who loves baseball?
I know people who are interested in it, but I don't know if I would say that they love it. You know what I mean?
Because the Bud Selig article, they actually did research, and they said over half the fans of baseball are over 50.
Yeah.
Well, when you're advertising, there is no, hey, we got to get those 50-plus graphics, or 50-plus demographic, right? They're like, we want 18 to 44. That's who we want to sell stuff to, 18 to 44, 18 to 44. Well, baseball doesn't have people who love baseball anymore. They have old people who are waiting to die, and you're not growing the sport. So Bud Selig, in his infinite wisdom,
you know who I think loved baseball was Joey G.
Well, but Joey G is not in the graphic. Joey G is 65 years old, and he's the typical baseball fan. How much money is he spending? How many times is he going to the? And we're going to pick on Joey G right now. How many times is he going to watch Indians games?
Probably never.
Probably never. I'm not going to downtown Cleveland. I'm going to watch it on my cable system, right? So if you don't have people going to the games and you only have them watching them on your cable system, cable prices are going up. Ted, the very last, and I'm sorry to get into your personal business, so you can yell at me off the air. But you asked me last time we got together, you said, how do I like Netflix and Hulu? Because cable's getting too expensive. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, you watch sports on cable, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, would you be like, this cable's too expensive, I'm just going to get rid of it, and I guess I won't watch baseball?
Yeah, I'm getting to that point.
But that's where a lot of people are. I already made the switch. I get to watch sports when it's on channel 3 or 5, or when I'm over at other people's houses.
And how many channels can you get on your TV again?
I get 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 5.1, which is basically the NBC affiliate, weather, and then some crap. And then 5.1, 5.2, right? And then I also get 43, 1, 2, and 3, and then 61, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I get about 12 channels, but only like 4 real channels. And then again, no offense, but 61.1 is Univision or Telemundo, one or the other.
Yeah.
Right? How much are you watching Univision or Telemundo?
Constantly.
The thing is, I live on the wrong side of the transmitters. They said in the near suburbs, Parma, Cleveland, the near suburbs of Cleveland, Parma Heights, Seven Hills, Garfield, that most of those cities can pick up all the antenna channels. 3, 5, 8, 19, 23. So if you did that, you could get the streaming video and you could get the local channels. But even when I watch the Indians on Channel 3, that's only 6 or 8 times a year. Mm-hmm. And again, I like baseball, and we'll go to a couple of games this year in Avon. We're going to a minor league affiliate, but we might only go to an Indians game once every year, once every 2 or 3 years. And again, I'm the fan that you can't afford to be losing. I'm the one who's supposed to be like, son, this is me and you, son. We're going to go to a gamer and catch a ball, and we're going to watch Albert Bell hit some home runs. No, this is the generation that they're losing. My son thinks baseball is the most boring thing in the history of man. Oh, Ted's leaving. Ted's had enough of me. Oh, is that hum bothering you?
No, it's getting kind of cold, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, but like I said, this is your house. It's not my house. But again, with Alex, he thinks baseball is the most boring thing in the world. And I remember when he was a kid, he was like 6 or 7, and he played Pee Wee baseball, right? And he was like, well, they don't hit the ball to me. And he never, because it's not on the TV, he never learned to love it. When he was playing, he wasn't one of the better players, so he didn't get to be the pitcher or the first baseman, so he didn't learn to love it. He doesn't love the game. And he's the generation that you're losing because you're like, I'm going to make every red cent, and I'm going to put everything on cable, and, we're going to play the World Series at all kinds of messed up times.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about music, now is there a rock and roll commissioner to make sure that rock and roll stays alive? No, there is no rock and roll commissioner. So rock and roll destroys itself, eats itself, and then is reinvented. Well, it's not doing a good job of reinventing itself. All these old people are like, we want to listen to new rock and roll, but like lighter and more generic, so we'll just listen to country because it's garbage. I'm sorry. Ted's going to get mad. We have a friend that we work with. We won't say his last name, but his first name is Joe, and I'll write down his initial, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Joe, because we work with 3 Joes. And that Joe, not Joe who does Beacon of Speech with us, but that Joe says everybody who loves rock and roll that he knows, and Joe's what, 62?
63.
63? He says everybody that he knows who loved rock and roll when they were a kid love country now. And again, that means their kids and grandkids are not growing up to love rock and roll. When you're a kid, you have to find rock and roll. You have to find the band that does it for you, who speaks for your generation. My kids, they love My Chemical Romance. Ted's turning the air back on. They love My Chemical Romance. They love Fall Out Boy. They love Panic at the Disco. I don't love those bands, but I respect that they're the new generation of rock and roll. The problem is you're not hearing Panic at the Disco on any rock stations. You're not hearing Fall Out Boy on any rock stations. And that's the problem, because they're like, oh, you want to hear Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas again, right? They're not reinventing themselves, so they're basically closing down their own industry. And it's just like what we say almost every episode now. Newspapers charging more for less. Well, rock and roll's not reinventing. Bud Selig chased every single dollar that he could make and the owners could make, and they said, screw baseball for the next generation. We made money. We'll see you in hell. All right? No, seriously. I don't know. I know a lot of young people, okay? And I'm not saying it in a weird way, like Steve. I know a lot of young people, and they love basketball. They love football. They don't love baseball. They just don't. They like going to a baseball game, and even my kid likes going to the minor league game because, not to watch the game, but to run up the hill and run around and, play with your friends. Do you want to save this? You want to save the USA Today?
Yeah, I don't care.
I'll throw that at you, too. You can read that. See, we were both off camera for a minute. That's excellent TV. This is something else I wanted to talk to. Is China our friend?
Is China our friend? No.
No. No, China, as far as I'm concerned, and this is Beacon of Speech, I'll ask Ted in a minute, you start thinking about this. America's biggest enemy in the world today is China. Okay? Now, Ted, who do you think is America's biggest enemy in the world today?
Biggest enemy in the world today.
Right. Now, I'm going to stand by my fact of China, and the next Beacon of Speech article I'm going to be writing.
When you say biggest enemy, do you mean, because I think we have several enemies, do you say that they're the ones who could do the most damage to
Yes,
us?
they're the ones who can do the most damage to us.
Yeah, I guess I would have to go along with
Well, you can think you can go with China as your soft answer, and I'll give you my hard answer. Okay? America has 300 million people. If we went to war with any other country in the world except for India and China, we would probably win. Okay? Say we went to war with Russia, it'd be a tie. Say we went to war. Well, I mean, we would eventually win, but there'd be millions of dead people, right? But do you want the cost of millions of dead people to win a war? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Say we went to war with North Korea. North Korea would launch a nuke, and you know what would happen? It would fall into the Pacific Ocean, and we would overrun that country in about 3 effing seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Russia would be a long, bloody 4-year war, tens of millions of casualties. That's a price you don't want to pay for humanity. Okay? China, okay? China could put 200 million people on a boat, come in here and occupy America, and it would be a bloody mess. But no other country in the world except for China could put boots on American soil if we went to war with them. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, India, they have 1 billion people, and 800 million of them are starving in the streets, and they won't eat the cows, right? So I'm not worried about India. I'm not even worried about India in 100 years, okay? But China they don't care about mass casualties. Their human rights record is horrible, right? We're going to send you to go die in America, okay? Do I have a choice? Nope, see you, off on the boat you go, right? And so that's why I'm nervous about China. And again, this is the year 2017. You don't know what the world's going to look like in 2050. It could be totally different. You know, China could be, we are going to put these people on the boats and we're bringing them over there, and America's going to be like, well, we'll nuke you. And it'll be like, okay, well, you nuke China and 200 million people will be camped out in the U.S. where there's no nukes. Logistically, they're the only ones I'm afraid of, right? Now, in the USA Today, this was very underreported. This was about 2 weeks ago. China's shame. First Nobel Peace Prize laureate to die in chains since the Nazi era. Okay, and I guess this guy right here, his name's, okay, I'm going to try and pronounce it, but I could be wrong. Is it Louis Xiaobo? Louis Xiaobo? Louis?
It's probably Lou.
Lou Zambo?
I don't know, maybe Zybo?
Okay. Lou Zambo, okay? He won the Nobel Peace Prize. He was 61-year-old who was under house arrest. And
because it's almost like Rui.
Yeah. And that's why we used to work with a girl named Rui, and I used to think she was a cute Vietnamese girl. But Lou Zambo said, there is no force that can put an end to the human quest for freedom, and China will in the end become a nation ruled by... Wait. There is no force that can put an end to the human quest for freedom, and China in the end become a nation ruled by law where human rights reign supreme. So Louis Zambo says one day there'll be a free China. Okay, now, that may or may not happen in my lifetime. He won the Nobel Peace Prize for saying that. The Chinese said, you are subverting communism, we're going to put you in jail. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. They found out he had terminal... I think they said terminal liver cancer. Where was it? Yeah, terminal liver cancer. He had terminal liver cancer, and he said, listen, I don't want to be under house arrest, and I don't trust you Chinese doctors. I want to go to America, and I want them to work on my liver cancer. What did the Chinese government say?
Go pound salt.
Go pound salt. Ted is correct. So
go pound salt, Rui.
They said, well, we'll tell you what, we'll give you a better doctor than the doctor who said you're dying of liver cancer. Now, in China's defense, most people who get liver cancer do die. Would you say that's fair? Now, I'm not trying to be a jerk, and I'm not trying to stick up for a Chinese, but it's more or less a death sentence. For him to say, I want to go to America for better doctors, you're probably still screwed. Okay? Now, Should he have had the right to go? Of course. China screwed him, and he died under house arrest, which sucks. Right?
You screwy, Louie.
Yeah, screw you, Louie. But have you heard this story?
No.
You did not hear about the guy who died in chains in China.
No.
He won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was the first one to die in chains since the 40s under Hitler. Right? That is what we are dealing with in China. Okay? Now, all this rigmarole with North Korea, this can be stopped very easy. China just says, listen, North Korea.
Knock it off.
Knock it off. But they don't do it, right? And so, because at the end of the day, China wants a split Korea. They don't want a strong Korea. China doesn't want a strong Korea. They don't want a strong Japan. They don't want a strong Hong Kong. They don't want a strong Taiwan.
You said at the end of the day, and that's something that Bill O'Reilly bothers Bill O'Reilly, is when people say at the end of the day.
Sorry, Bill O'Reilly.
But I was listening to him, and he said, in the end. Isn't that pretty much the same thing? At the end of the day, or
yes.
in the end?
Yes. Well, maybe he said in the end to commemorate the guy from Linkin Park's death. Because he's saying in the end, nothing really matters. It's very profound when he's saying it. The point is China. They can put the kibosh on it. And as we speak right now, Donald Trump is warning, saying, listen, China, you need to do something about North Korea, or else we're going to do something about North Korea. Today, as we do, beacon of speech, Putin says we are going to kick out 700 American diplomats. The American Senate voted almost unanimously in the Congress and the Senate to impose sanctions on Russia, right?
Is this recently?
Today. I just read it today, right before we went on.
This will be, what, more sanctions, right? Because there already were sanctions.
Well, there were sanctions, but the Congress voted on more, and then Trump has to okay it. Well, since Congress unanimously said we're going to put sanctions on you, and then if he vetoes it, then they say Trump's working for the Russians. If he doesn't veto it, then he's marching us off to war. He's kind of in a lose-lose situation. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's what's going on today, and I brought that China thing because America should have picked up. I should have seen that all over the news, and I didn't. I did see a blurb here or there. And to compliment the USA Today, I really like the USA Today. You know how I bash on CNN all the time? Mm-hmm. I really like the USA Today, and they had a really nice story about the guy. And like I said, I vaguely knew about him. I think I read one or two stories about him, you know, because he wanted to come to America. And I remember reading something about Nobel Prize winner wants to die in America. You know, because he wanted to breathe the fresh air of American spirit. Oh yeah, you breathe the fresh air of American spirit, where nobody's walking through a beacon of speech, everybody's dying of opioid overdoses. So, Ted, don't do heroin. Do you want to read about this guy? Do you want to learn about him?
Yeah.
You do not care. Don't pretend.
No,
don't be like that, Ted.
I do care.
So, that's a bunch of hooey. I don't think there was anything else. I think it was just those two articles. I think it was the one about the music, and I think it was the one about the guy from China. Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, there's Trump right there. Russia talk follows Trump to Paris. So that was a couple weeks ago. So you can take a look at that. All right. So, what else was on my outline? Airplay. Ted Coley. Things that I love right now. Things that I love and I'm going to die if I don't get to get. Okay? And you leave out family because you love your family and you see your family. Me and you both, right? You love your mom. You love
a radio show?
Yeah. Do you love Beacon of... No. I'm saying things that you like. TV shows, records, plays. I know you're big into the theater. Mm-hmm. What do you... is can't miss TV for Ted Coley right now? And again, there's no right answer.
Um,
You're Ted and I'm Fred. I'm going to give you an answer once I give you my answer.
I finally started watching Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. That's good.
What else is can't miss?
Now, you're not done with it. You're watching it on cable, so you're watching it as they loop it. You started here, now you're watching Breaking Bad. You're not binge watching it like 10 episodes a day on the streaming service, right?
No. I mean, they're playing it on AMC.
Okay, yeah.
So I am kind of binge watching it because every Sunday they're playing, all day.
Oh, crap. I'm not keeping you from watching it now, am I?
Well, no, it's on.
I've
been watching it, but I mean, as much as I would like to sit there and watch it for 12 hours,
right.
I mean, it's just not realistic.
Oh, no, it is. This is America, Ted. What else are you going to be doing?
It's just because I got, other things to do.
Okay. Well, I know nobody is watching this, okay, but...
What's must-see TV for you?
That's what I'm going to tell you. One of the most well-written dark shows I have ever watched. You brought up Breaking Bad. Would you say that's dark?
Yeah.
And it's well-written?
Yeah.
Is a cartoon called Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty Season 3 starts tonight. And I can't watch it because I don't have cable, so hopefully it comes on Hulu tomorrow. Now, are you familiar with Rick and Morty?
I've heard of that, but I don't...
Rick and Morty is the adventure of an old scientist, probably 60 years old, who's a genius, and his grandson Morty, who's probably about 10, and he's really stupid. Okay? And it's all about their adventures, and it's not like Star Trek, where at the end of the Star Trek episode, Kirk is okay and everything's wrapped up and we're going to search more worlds. Rick and Morty is like, we screwed up the universe and everything ended horribly and next week we're going to screw it all up again. It's almost like a bizarro Star Trek.
So, it's a cartoon?
It's a cartoon, yes.
Now, is that pretty much all you watch is cartoons?
Yes. Let me tell you what happens at the Hunt House. When Fred is writing, he likes to listen to new music. I was listening to new music from the Afghan Whigs this week.
Was Drake some of your new...
I was not listening to Drake. I was listening to Paul Bearer. I believe I was listening to Paul Bearer this week. I was listening to Ghastly Sounds this week. When I write, I like to listen to music. I like to listen to newer music. When I don't want to listen to newer music, I listen to older music. Post-metal like Isis, Pelican, other bands you never heard of. Now, what's on TV? See that TV right there?
Yeah.
Pretend like you're at my house.
Nothing's on that TV.
In the morning, we have Hulu and Netflix, right? My kids turn on cartoons. They turn on SpongeBob, they turn on American Dad, they turn on Family Guy, they turn on Simpsons. That crap loops all day long. As you come in and out of the room, there's cartoons on 24 hours a day. If I turn on sports, Dad, what are you doing? You turned off the cartoons. Because I like to watch on Saturday mornings. I can't do it in the summer because they're off. I like to watch Premier League at noon on Channel 3. Okay?
What day is this?
Saturday morning. They have Premier League on the TV. And it'll be on, and I turn it up real loud. And all you can hear are the fans chanting, death to Liverpool, or death to Swansea, or death to Man U. And they're swearing, and they're doing their angry chants, right? And I got it turned up. Somebody will come in and say, turn that crap off, it's soccer. So I turn off the volume, and it happens every week, because the soccer's playing. So I'm listening, I'm watching it without sound, and then they're like, can we watch cartoons on this TV? I'm like, you know what, go ahead, turn the cartoons back on. And they're looped. Okay, now my wife, when she comes home, she's like, you guys have been watching cartoons all day. You guys have been watching cartoons all day. I want to watch X, Y, or Z. She wants to watch a movie, she wants to watch a show. My wife likes to binge watch stuff. She's been watching, like, Mindy Project lately. I think she watched a whole season, like, in 2 days.
Okay, yeah, I know. I've never really watched that, but I know who that is.
But you're familiar.
You
watch The Office.
The girl from The Office.
The girl from The Office. So she comes home and she watches real TV that her friends watch, and then I go and write. You know what I mean? And then we do this thing, and we got the thing, the blog and everything. So, and then I say one day it's going to be popular, and then she goes. So, but I wanted to make sure I brought up watch Rick and Morty. For the rest of your life, watch Rick and Morty. Okay, but it takes them forever to do episodes, and they don't have a lot of episodes. So hopefully it's on the air for 9 more years. So your recommendation is watch Breaking Bad. And if you have streaming services, you should just start from day one and watch it all in 2 days. Ted, you really need to do that. What you need to do is find somebody with streaming services and just camp out there and watch it from start to finish and turn into a vegetable.
Well, don't you have streaming services?
Yeah, I do. You could come over. You come over on Friday night and then watch Breaking Bad straight through Monday morning.
There won't be any. There won't be any guff that I.
Oh no, you'll get all kinds of guff.
Is that an actual word?
Ted.
Guff?
Yeah, it is.
That's another word that must be like an old school word, you know.
Ted, this isn't Phineas and Ferb. Turn this off. All right, I'm gonna tie things up. Oh. Song of the day. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to write it down, but it's off the new Afghan Whigs album.
Another song I'm not going to know.
Afghan Whigs. I went home and I listened to that Traveling Wilburys song, and I listened to the song by George Harrison. I was familiar with both of them. It's just I didn't connect the name with the...
as the Traveling Wilburys, so was that Handle with Care?
Yeah. Yeah, I was familiar with it. I just...
You don't like that? You don't like that?
It was all right. It was a very big hit, though.
Yeah, yeah. And you know how they got that?
No.
It was they all got together, kind of by like accident.
Mm-hmm.
They were at Bob Dylan's house in his garage, which was like a studio.
Right.
And it was Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Tom Petty, and Roy Orbison. I don't know if they were all there. But most of them were there, and they were like, well, let's try to write a song. So there was a box that said Handle with Care. So they took that idea and went from there.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that story. Oh, I'm sorry.
So there you go. And what was the George Harrison song?
Bangladesh. Bangladesh. It wasn't a big hit, but I was familiar with it. So, but the new Afghan Whigs album, it's I don't remember the name of the album. It's got a demon on it. It's a Demon Profile or whatever. It's track 3. I think the track is the same as the album name. So track 3, I'll put it on YouTube, and nobody will listen to it, but we'll put it back on there anyhow. Ted, do you have anything you want to add besides watch Breaking Bad and listen to George Harrison?
No, that's about it. That's what I want to be remembered for.
Well, hopefully you live to Beacon of Speech number 62.